It was just that I was overdosing myself, basically.
No one talked about menopause in my perimenopause or menopause early years like they do now. I had nobody.
Menopause is when you've outlived your ovaries.
Mm-hmm.
Your ovaries no longer have a use. But
So
you're still
you don't have a use, and that's why I think people should watch it, because it makes you feel like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy, I'm not alone, I'm not getting dementia.
Welcome to Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast urging you to let it go and don't look back, with nationally acclaimed professional organizer Christine Stone and self-proclaimed hot damn mess radio and TV personality Eden Kendall.
Hey there, new friend. We are so glad you found Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast for women over 50. What started as a passion project has grown into a beautiful and supportive community, and we couldn't be more grateful. Would you like to help us cover the cost of producing and growing this amazing sisterhood? When you join our Uncluttered and Unfiltered bonus club on Patreon for just $5 a month, you'll have early bird access to commercial-free video versions of our episodes, plus plenty of bonus content and some other surprises along the way. Check our show notes for a link to our Patreon and to our always free ladies only private Facebook group. And thank you for being here. Welcome, everybody, to Uncluttered and Unfiltered with me, Eden.
And Christine.
And we are celebrating today. We are recording this episode on October 18th. And today is world, not even just national, but World Menopause Day. And neither of us woke up to gifts or phone calls or text messages.
Or a crown or anything.
No, I'm sure it's no coincidence that a documentary aired on PBS yesterday. It's airing different dates around the country on TV. But if you have a passport for PBS, you're a founding member, then you can watch it in advance. So we both watched The M Factor, which is a documentary that they say, and we're going to let you hear the trailer in just a second, they say is one of the very first times that a full program has been put together about the latest research on menopause. Take a listen.
I'm a board-certified OBGYN, right, at an accredited program in this country. I got less than a month of training of menopause, and some of my colleagues don't even get that.
Women who have early menopause have not only an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, but also of dementia.
Our brains run on estrogen starting at puberty, and they keep doing that until the end of our lives. Brain fog is a very weird phenomenon that doesn't even actually have a term in medicine, is that these changes can be so severe to prompt fears of either going crazy or developing dementia.
Women say, I just don't feel like myself anymore. I feel like I'm just a different person. Like, who is this person? I've lost myself.
So we watched it.
I watched it. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It made me feel like someone else was feeling the things that I was feeling. I was at lunch with my mom on Wednesday, and we were talking about brain fog, but we never mentioned it. Like in here, they said, oh, brain fog, and women think it's early onset dementia.
Yes.
And that's what I was saying to my mom.
I've had
I'm
that
like,
a few times.
Yeah. And so for them to kind of validate what I was feeling, that it isn't early onset dementia, it's brain fog from being in menopause, and that menopause lasts forever. It doesn't go away.
There are so many little nuggets, and we both
so
took notes. But before we get into it too much, so I started to do some research to see who funded this documentary and like who put together the studies. And I don't have all of that in front of me, but the reason I always do that is because you have to be really careful on documentaries, some of them, because you want to make sure it's not an instrument to push a product or like, for example, there was this one that my husband and I watched that was about being vegan, and it was a very convincing documentary to the point where we tried it for a couple of weeks. But then we found out this isn't why we stopped doing it, and I'm sure there are a lot of benefits to being a vegan.
Oh, yeah.
But the people who paid for it had lots of stock in Beyond Burger.
Oh.
So does that mean that the information is incorrect? I don't know, but I'm just saying it's interesting to see who funded these things. And Mayo Clinic was
Yep,
among
was
those
among those.
behind it, and some names that we recognize, lots of private organizations, and then some of the people that you saw that were actually in the documentary. But this was a solid piece of entertainment,
updated
yeah.
information.
Yes. So the M Factor had some people that were already famous. It had that Mary Claire, that is a very well-known now OBGYN that's been talking a lot about estrogen and hormone replacement therapy. And just, it had a lot of different gynecologists, OBGYNs. It had researchers on there, but it also had a few women that were really at their wits' end trying to figure out what was wrong with them.
Right. And I could relate to that. At the time, I'm just saying, you think you're going crazy, and that's what they were saying. I feel like I don't have fun. They were explaining, and I'm like, God, that sounded like me in the very beginning. You're not having fun. You're in a grouchy mood. You could bite someone's head off. You're not,
Yes.
So it was very, very validating. I'm going to keep saying that word over and over, because one thing, before I knew we were doing this, but we were doing something on menopause, that is the one thing that I said that no one talked about menopause in my perimenopause or menopause early years like they do now. So people nowadays do have that benefit. I had nobody. It was like, okay, if you haven't had a period for a year, then I'll give you the hormone replacement. But other than that, I can't help you. Goodbye. It just wasn't the information from what this documentary really was helpful. I really thought it was.
And the full name, the M Factor, Shredding the Silence on Menopause, among the little nuggets that I wrote down as my notes. When they were talking about brain fog, they said something to the effect of couldn't process a word. There's a word, you've used it again and again, but for some reason that word is not coming to you in the moment. I had an experience not so long ago where I was introducing someone I had worked with for years and years, and I butchered his last name. And this is a name that I must have said in my life a million times. And it was embarrassing, and almost to the point where I was surprised actually that nobody thought that was worrisome that I couldn't say the name. Like, I was surprised that nobody thought I should probably go get a medical exam.
Right.
I mean, it hasn't happened much since then, but every now and again there'll be an actor or a person
I do
I've
it all
met's
the
name,
time.
and it just doesn't come to me, and it used to be second nature.
Yes. Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And they did a whole little section on the brain connection to menopause, which nobody ever talks about that. There's a huge body-brain connection, and it affects your brain. And they showed scans of premenopausal and menopausal, and you could see on a scan the difference. And so I don't know about you, but I felt better after watching that. I'm like, okay, I don't have dementia.
Much better. So much better. Another thing that was said was a term I've never heard before, and it is really a scary sounding thing. But if you think about it, this is true. Menopause is when you have outlived your ovaries.
Yeah.
You've outlived your ovaries.
Mm-hmm.
Your ovaries no longer have a use. But
So
you're still
you don't have a use. That's what people
right.
were feeling.
So you've
like.
survived them basically. Your lifespan is longer than your ovaries' lifespan. So that is strange. And then there was one woman on there saying, why hasn't this been studied more? Why is the last part of my life not as important? Why is my quality of life here at the end, at the third chapter?
Right.
Why isn't it as important? Why does nobody really want to make sure? I mean, everybody wants to make sure you don't have cramps when you're menstruating. They want to make sure your labor and your delivery go fantastically. Well, why not this much attention being paid to the third big hormonal event in your life?
I don't know. And I'm very hopeful after watching this that they are finally doing research. And one thing I put on the negative list for me is, I don't know about you, but there's been so much controversy since that study years and years ago about how they said hormone replacement therapy causes cancer, breast cancer, or cancer in general. And now they're saying that's just simply not true. But no one talks about it. Even when you go to your doctor, they're like, that's up to you. That's a 50-50. It's like you're not getting kind of nobody really still wants to talk about it in that way. And they said that in the documentary, that people are not on hormone replacement that can easily be on hormone replacement and feel better. But they don't talk to their doctors about it. The doctors don't talk to them about it. So I definitely think it's, for some reason, no one wants to talk about menopause.
Well, the thing about the breast cancer research was when that research came out, and they explained this, please don't take word for word my explanation, right. But the way they explained it, which is what I would appreciate from a doctor to explain it, instead of just saying yes or no, it does or doesn't cause it, is they said they studied all these women, but a large amount of women were like 78 years old or older. So these women had a lot more health issues going into this study than just every normal woman that has menopause going on hormones. And yeah, some of them got cancer, but many of them were like a lot older.
Yes.
So you don't really know. And then also you have to take into consideration that there are benefits for your heart.
Yes.
So if your
bones.
And your bones. So does that outweigh the risk?
Right.
So there are so many more factors, and that's certainly not something I'm comfortable getting into the numbers of all of that. But I know you and I'll share this. I went on my hormone patch because my doctor said, listen, you've had a hysterectomy and uterine cancer. This was at a time when everyone assumed it was a higher risk for uterine cancer if you had the hormone patch.
Right.
So I don't want to address all of that in that we don't really know 100% sure on anything.
Right.
But doctors' opinions, get another doctor's opinion.
Yes,
if you have a
that's
doctor
what
that
I
won't
think.
talk to you about it, get a different doctor.
That's what it said in this too, and I 100% agree. If you go to, especially a male doctor, and I like male doctors, but when it comes to menopause, I would recommend a female doctor. I just think that male doctors sometimes they just don't have the interest to even learn about it the way women do because they're going through it.
Right.
So I definitely think getting a second opinion and really doing your homework and really studying up on what's going on now, not 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I think studying up on what is going on right now with all the studies and newer doctors that when we were listening to this, med school, they didn't teach them about menopause.
It was amazing. They would talk about how many hours and years they would put into their degrees and how little they were given any kind of education.
It was like an
on
hour.
Menopause.
Or there was one chapter in a book, they said. That was
years.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barely
So I learned a lot from this, and it definitely made me feel like I wasn't alone. That's why I think people should watch it, because it makes you feel like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone. I'm not getting dementia.
Audra McDonald, the Broadway
Yes.
star, her comment at first was that she had this voice in her head that was telling her she couldn't sing. Like she was really giving herself so much second guessing, and it was very related to menopause for her. It was all of this self-doubt. And then they went on to say that brain fog, getting back to the brain fog, that there's no medical term really that describes it exactly. I mean, they can kind of pigeonhole it into some other term for when you start to not be able to process things in your brain. But that brain fog feeling, there's no medical term for it.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And they have all these medications for men, but they have nothing really for women to deal with the sex drive.
Oh, that's the whole thing.
The whole chapter on the sex drive, because there were women on it's not only painful having sex, but the pain afterwards isn't worth it.
Yeah.
And so they are trying to help you because people are like, okay, you're in menopause, you're done. You shouldn't have fun. You shouldn't have sex. You shouldn't be happy. You know what I mean? And I think this really made me realize, you know what? I have a long time left on this earth. You need to feel good about yourself.
Yeah, the libido thing was huge because the women just were saying they just didn't have one.
Yeah.
And then men have all of these options. Here's what blew my mind. They had a dentist on there.
Oh, I know.
Women lose teeth. I did not realize
I
this.
didn't know that either.
Women lose a tooth. So many women, I can't even remember the number she said, within the first years of menopause, so many more women start to lose their teeth.
And have gum disease from menopause.
That is crazy. And by the way, there's no such thing as postmenopausal. I learned that because once you've hit menopause, you're in menopause for the rest of your life.
Right.
You're always in menopause.
Yeah, because that one doctor was saying drives her crazy because it's like, okay, I'm done with menopause. She's like, you're never done with menopause. That's like saying, I love that because even though I'm 62, I still have menopausal symptoms still. So it's not like it's over at 60, you know what I mean? Or 58. I think everybody's body is different.
I found out recently that my husband listens to these podcasts a lot because he calls it intel. He's like, oh yeah, it's intel, it's research. So in the hope that he's listening right now, one of the studies showed that the amount of hormone drop that you experience when you go into menopause is equivalent of drinking 6 cups of coffee a day and then stopping cold turkey. So it'd be like if you suddenly were drinking 6 cups of coffee a day and then you just stopped, that's the drop.
Right.
Of the measurements of hormones in your body. So it is causing, the disturbance is real.
The disturbance is very real.
Yeah. So let me see. What else?
Well, they talked about hair loss, skin elasticity.
Yep.
And I like the one doctor who said, everyone thinks it's going to, if you go on hormone replacement, it's going to just make you young. And she said, that's not true either. Like there's so many myths around. And I like that too, because I don't think it makes you young, like physically young. Like you're not going to have the face of a 25-year-old if you go on hormone replacement. It helps with the other symptoms, including skin elasticity, sex drive, all those things that are going on with skin elasticity. Like they have Viagra for men.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They have all kinds of things for men.
Oh, well, one of the things that came up was testosterone. And they were talking about how there are different testosterones that can also help because women do, believe it or not, benefit from testosterone. I was put on testosterone a while back. I'm going to say this was before my hysterectomy. This was before I think I was probably, I think perimenopause. And my doctor put me on some testosterone. The issue is that you have to put, and they discuss this in the documentary, there's no dosage for women measured out. So you basically had to take this tube and put it on your skin. Well, I went in for regular blood work and got a call from a different doctor, because I have a thyroid thing I monitor, saying, we need you to come in right away. You have the highest testosterone. They thought I had some kind of adrenal issue, like adrenal cancer or some kind of terrible disease because my testosterone shot up so high. It was just that I was overdosing myself, basically. Now, I wasn't seeing any side effects from it. I don't want to suggest that I was growing a beard or anything like that. But I guess for my blood work, it was such an incremental spike that it caused a lot of alarm. But I was able to immediately calm the situation by saying, no, actually, I'm taking a cream. And they said, oh, that's what it is. Let's just retest you down the road. And that's what we did. But they referenced that. They said, there is no testosterone dosed for a woman. So if you're told to do what, like pea size or whatever, like there's no measuring. And then it talked about the coverage for it, that it wasn't covered by insurance.
For women.
For women. Now, if you are using it as a woman to transition to being a man,
insurance covers
it.
Yeah.
But
or if men want it, it's covered.
Right. But if you're a woman who wants it because you want to balance out your hormones and your gynecologist suggests it, you're going to have to pay for that out of your own pocket.
Yeah. It's just, I'll tell you. Thank God there's more women doctors coming up in the world right now so that hopefully they will be the ones to specialize in menopause.
Another thing from this documentary that spoke to me is they talked about the catch-22. If you talk about menopause too much, are you handicapping these women that are experiencing it? In other words, the more you talk about menopause, the more you're reminding people, like let's say in the workplace, that there's this thing out there that is affecting the women you work with. So maybe you're out there and you're a woman and you're 55 years old and you're in the corporate workplace and you've got all these younger coworkers and you're doing your best to blend in and not stand out, and everyone's beating down the menopause signals, and now all of a sudden everyone's looking at you thinking, oh gosh, I wonder if she has brain fog. So there's that catch-22 of, yes, you want the word to get out, but at the same time,
you want to still be boss lady.
You still want to be boss lady. Yeah. So it's tough. It's just an example of how difficult it is to get the message out there, because you run the risk of also handicapping the same population you're trying to help.
Well, that's why podcasts like ours for women over 50, I feel like it really helps to talk to other women, though, that are going through this. I think having support groups, and you don't have to go in there and just bitch. I mean, you could just say, yeah, last night I flew off the handle and, I felt really bad about it. I'm not myself. I just think women talking to other women about it is so important. Because there are things you can do. You don't have to be miserable. And that's what I learned in this. You don't have to be miserable.
It's just aging is what a lot of physicians and a lot of people and even women themselves who are experiencing the symptoms will say instead of it's menopause. And I have a great example of that. Let's say that you're talking to me and you're trying to remember a singer. And you're like, oh, what was his name? What was his name? This is getting old. I'm telling you, this is what it is to get old. Never do we ever say, this is a hormonal thing. Mm-hmm. It's very natural for someone my age to their hormones kick in and I can't access the piece of my brain that's going to give me that information right now. But no, that's not what we say or think. We immediately are like, we're getting old. We're rotting away. We can't function the way we functioned yesterday. Instead of it really being addressed, like I'm experiencing a hormone deficiency right now and it is causing this exact thing that is happening.
Well, they were even talking about supplements, and I loved that because I do take those supplements because of dry skin, dry eyes, dry everything. They were suggesting some supplements that are over the counter that you could buy and that really help some of the symptoms. They weren't selling anything. It was like your basic fish oil and D3, I mean, which kind of everybody really knows about those two things anyway. But I really think some people don't understand that those two things can help immensely.
They made a point to say, talk to your physician about anything, whether it's a supplement or it's something that is a little more like a hormone replacement, an HRT.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely.
But there was one quote I want to share because I feel like this could be the mission of our show. Like we could toss all of the branding we've got and make this quote that was from this documentary our motto, and it was, our quality of life matters. Your quality of life matters.
Yes.
Even though you've had your babies or you've had your big career, and now you are in what a lot of people just purely based on math would call the final chapter, your final third.
Yeah.
Your quality of life matters. It matters.
Yeah. I 100% agree. If you are having trouble sleeping, you have hot flashes, brain fog, dryness everywhere, lack of a sex drive, those things matter, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, they really do. So talk to your doctor, and if you don't like what one says, go to somebody else.
Ask yourself this question. If you had a list right now, a piece of paper, and on the list it said, daughter has a flat tire, husband cut his finger, this and like a million other people's problems, and then yours was can't sleep, dry skin, painful sex. Like you'd put yourself on you'd be the last person on that list to get attention.
Yep, I agree.
Even though these are some pretty annoying things that are going on, you would put everyone else's issues before your own because you'd be afraid that the doctor would just say, you know what? I'm sorry to say. Hi, it's Eden. I still laugh at the day that Christine rattled off all of her menopause symptoms like Rosanna Dana from back in the day. I think we all felt a little less alone when we heard that. From bloating to bad sleep to just feeling uncomfortable in your own skin. Hormone Harmony is perfect for those horrible menopause symptoms that make us put our lives on hold. Hormone Harmony supports hormonal balance and regulation. And what most women mention in the over 17,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony is it makes you feel like yourself again. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use our code UUPodcast at checkout, happymammoth.com, and use that code UUPodcast for 15% off today. So whether it's hot flashes and night sweats, racing thoughts, low moods, poor sleep, bloating, gas, lack of desire, Hormone Harmony can help. Visit happymammoth.com and use the code UUPodcast for 15% off your first order. Uncluttered and Unfiltered is supported by Hearts for Minds. Looking to make a positive change? Sober October is the perfect time to be more mindful about your alcohol consumption. Whether you're aiming to cut back or take a complete break, October offers a great opportunity to experience the benefits like improved sleep, reduced stress, and a boost to your mental health. Join Hearts for Minds and discover a world of delicious non-alcoholic options with a free ebook, Mocktails with Meaning, featuring curated recipes from expert mixologists to help you celebrate mindfully. It's easy to incorporate non-alcoholic drinks into your social life and enjoy the same flavors and fun without the alcohol. So this October, raise a glass to your well-being. Join the movement, support Hearts for Minds, and discover the joy of mindful drinking. Check out the free ebook at heartsforminds.org and in our show notes. You're not getting any younger.
Right. And also, have you ever noticed that some people have no symptoms at all? They're like, I didn't even notice. And I think that's part of why people write it off like, oh, she's crazy. You know what I mean? Because my mom went through it and she was fine. You know what I mean? But it's because everybody's hormone system is different. And some people don't have hot flashes. Some people don't have night sweats, but a majority do. And that's why I think it's so important to talk to each other also. And that way you don't feel alone, which is always what we talk about in this podcast. You know, the ladies only group on Facebook. I mean, you want a group of women to be able to talk about what's going on, especially when it comes to hormones.
If you find that you're waking up sore in the morning and you find a meme that says, why am I waking up sore in the morning? You want a group of women that you can just share that with and have everybody chime in and say, word, I know. Tell me about it. I can't stand how sore I am in the morning. You know, there are a lot of things that we all have in common and very little time in the day where we get to commiserate with each other.
Right.
So consider our Facebook group, getting back to what you just mentioned, our ladies only Facebook group, consider that your little haven, like almost like if you had a closet you can duck into every now and again and just vent and then walk back out. Let us be that for you. So the way to find that is on Uncluttered and Unfiltered Ladies Only on Facebook. It's a group you have to actually join, but we're just doing that. The only gatekeeping that's happening there is that we want to be sure that you're a woman who kind of fits the description. You might be younger or older than what you think, but it doesn't matter. We just want you to kind of be a part of that vibe. It's really nice, fun little area. We're also on Patreon. Not this episode as far as video goes, but most episodes we are also on video, and that's where you can watch on Patreon. Anything on Patreon is commercial free, and so you can speed right through an episode that way. What else do we want to ask you to do?
Tell one friend over 50 that here we are, we're ready. Anything over 50 we talk about.
Yep. And you can certainly reach out to us through that Uncluttered and Unfiltered Ladies Only page and give us your ideas for topics as well. We've got some really fun ones coming up. And lots of times we'll have organizing tips because Christine is a professional organizer and recently helped me to get pretty organized. So a lot of that's on our Patreon that you can watch videos before and afters.
Yes.
But also lots of episodes. So go back through our library if you're new and listen to some of those episodes and subscribe so you're always notified when an episode is released, which is once a week. Having said all of those good things, let's go through it together, the symptoms. Okay. When it comes to hot flashes,
dry skin,
low libido,
eye problems,
brain fog,
dental issues,
you can let it go.
And don't look back.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey there, new friend. We are so glad you found Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast for women over 50. What started as a passion project has grown into a beautiful and supportive community, and we couldn't be more grateful. Would you like to help us cover the cost of producing and growing this amazing sisterhood? When you join our Uncluttered and Unfiltered bonus club on Patreon for just $5 a month, you'll have early bird access to commercial-free video versions of our episodes, plus plenty of bonus content and some other surprises along the way. Check our show notes for a link to our Patreon and to our always free ladies-only private Facebook group. And thank you for being here.